tough and strong do you have to be? How much endurance do you have to have? How fit do you have to be to live your life? And it's a great question because there's 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week, 365. I know that we know that, but we don't know how many years we're going to get. So how much energy, enthusiasm and excitement do we have to have for life? And then if you add in the things that people want to do to make life even more special. So what if you want to have a baby? What if you want to run a marathon? What if you want to climb mountains? What if you want to play a sport, be a martial artist, have a successful business? How much energy do you have to have? And how fit and strong do you need to be? And I think they're great questions. And as a personal results coach all of my life and now as an old lady, it's been really interesting to see the different exercise programs that people are given to have energy, to have endurance, to have strength, to have fitness. And are they all different? And it's a really great question. So what if you want to run a marathon? And I'm using that as an example, or sharing that because I've run 21 marathons. And I share that because I loved it, obviously. Somebody told me I was too big to run marathons, so I gave it a crack and loved it. Somebody told me that I was too small to compete in bodybuilding, so I did that as well. Didn't enjoy that so much because I don't like dieting. But it requires a certain physique, it requires a certain exercise program to compete in bodybuilding. So I did that. I live in the South Island of New Zealand where there's hiking and biking and ice cold lakes to swim in, and I'm surrounded by mountains. So for me, it's almost every single day where I'm hiking up a mountain. I take my dogs out every day for a very long time because I want my dogs to sniff and smell and have a wonderful time. So we go out for a long time. So do I need endurance for that? According to the experts, yes, because it's over an hour. So I'm going out for a long time. So how do you get really fit and really strong and have a stack of energy to do life? Now, 24 hours in a day, if you do absolutely nothing, you'll be living in the aerobic system. So let's get a little bit technical about exercise. So you'll be breathing in oxygen, you'll be breathing out carbon dioxide, and your body will be burning fat and carbohydrate and a little bit of protein. And we live in that system. So if we exercise in that system, if we want to get more endurance, more strength, more fitness, how's that going to work? Now, you can get your heart rate up higher and still be in the aerobic system. But ultimately, I always ask this question. If you want to get 100% result, do you need to put in 100% effort? And how do you work at 100% effort? And if you look at how the human body works, there's 3 energy systems. One we live in 24/7. There's the lactate system, which is somewhere between 10 seconds and 3 minutes, and you can work really hard there. But for most people, and 9 out of 10 people don't want to exercise, for most people that produces burning sensations in your muscles, and it produces, for some people they get sick, they just feel nauseous. So I don't want, as a personal results coach, as an exercise professional, I don't want to put people in that system unless I have to, because it's very uncomfortable. Now, some people like it. I don't like it. I don't like pushing my body where my muscles are burning. You know when you hear people say, feel the burn, feel the burn? I don't like to feel the burn. I want to be healthy, fit and strong without the burn and without feeling sick. So that leaves one system, that's the anaerobic phosphate system, which is the fight and flight system. When you're under severe threat, your body says we need to produce everything we need to get away from the threat or to turn and kill the threat. It's only 10 seconds. Your body uses stored phosphates, which is instant energy, so that you can go straight away. Your body gives you everything that you need, so you have increased heart rate, increased blood pressure, your pupils dilate so you can see what's going on. Everything else shuts down except I need this 10 seconds to get away from the threat or to turn and kill the threat. So they're the 3 energy systems that you can get fitness, strength and energy and enthusiasm for life from. Endurance, if you want to add that one in. So why do we exercise in the aerobic system? And I've been asking this question a really long time because we live in it, so it's not very challenging. I don't want to exercise in the lactate system because it produces that burning sensation. Now, there are some sports that require that, but here's another thing to consider. If I work at 100% effort and get 100% fit, 100% strong, is it possible that the other 2 systems will work really effectively? Now, there's so much argument in the world about exercise and what you should and shouldn't do. But for me, and this is just a very personal thing, I'm really busy. And as a personal results coach, most of my clients, in fact, I'll go say all of them have said to me at some stage, I don't have time to exercise. So if I give somebody an exercise program that takes a long time, they're very unlikely to stick to it for very long, or definitely not for a lifetime. If I give somebody something that gives them repetitive movement, so if they have to walk, bike, run, cycle, bike and cycle is the same, Rowie, be on a cross trainer, be on a rowing machine, if they have to do something over and over and over, am I not putting somebody at high risk of injury? So if I want to train somebody to run a marathon or go for a 24-hour hike or to do it, and I'll use 24-hour events because there's a lot of those going on at the moment, long endurance events. If I give somebody lots of pounding, walking, hiking, running, biking, cross-training, and they're pounding, they're using every joint in their body over and over and over and over and over, am I not at risk of giving them an overuse injury? Even if it's a safe movement, walking is safe, running is safe, cross-training is safe, they're all upright positions where you're putting only compression forces through the joints. Now, if you start putting shearing forces through the joints, that's when you get into big trouble for injury. So if you're doing silly exercises that break the body apart into little pieces, that's a silly waste of time, of course. But if I'm doing upright position exercises, compound movements, and they're safe, that's how the human body works. It sounds safe, but if I do it over and over and over and over, and I'll use this as a classic example. When I first started to run marathons, and that came from, Rowie, you're too big to run marathon. So then you start looking at what do the marathon runners do. And if you have a look at programs for marathon runners, they're usually quite similar. So you've got to do short runs, you've got to do longer runs, you've got to do longer runs, and then you've got to increase your endurance. You've got to do longer runs. I'll give you another example. When I was younger, I used to be a swimmer when I was a very young girl. And I used to do 50-metre sprint runs or sprint swims. And when I went to training, my swimming coach used to say to me, Rowie, you have to do a kilometre or a half a kilometre warm-up. And I'd always say, why do I have to swim so slowly and so long to get fit to swim so short? And the answer was, well, that's just how we do it. And it's been really interesting because from being a very young girl to now being a very old lady, I'm still hearing exactly the same thing. You've got to build up a base aerobic fitness before you can do any form of sprinting or before you can get really fit. Well, that doesn't make any sense to me. So that's where the study of anatomy and physiology comes in. How do I get my fittest and how do I get my strongest? And then when it comes to endurance events, surely how do I get my mentally toughest? Because if I ask any person that does an endurance event, if you're really fit and really strong and you start on the start line knowing that you're as fit as you can be and as strong as you can be, what is the rest of the race? And having run 21 marathons myself, every marathon run I've ever done, all 21 of them, there's been a time in the race where you've thought, I'm not sure I can do this, this is really hard, this is taking a really long time, I want to quit. But when you're really fit and when you're really strong, you know that you can do it. But now comes mental toughness. Now you have to fight with your own headspace saying, no, I'm not going to stop. And I did get some really great advice the first marathon run that I ever did. It was, Rowie, when the gun goes off, start running. And when you cross the finish line, stop running and don't give yourself an option. And I've taken that advice for 21 marathons. I'm sharing all of this with you because what's the best way to get fit and strong for life? What's the best way to get fit and strong for an endurance event? What's the best way to get fit and strong to play sport, to do martial arts, to have a baby, to go on holidays? South Island and New Zealand, a lot of people do special skiing programs to get fit for skiing or fit for snowboarding or fit for rock climbing or fit for hiking. But what about the human body? It's just this one piece. There's muscles and bones, ligaments, tendons and joints, heart, lungs, endocrine system, central nervous system. What if they all work together to get you as fit and strong as possible, and then you can go and do all the things that you want to do? And that's where my study of anatomy and physiology took a very unique turn. And what's been fascinating for me now as an old lady is it seems finally the science seems to be catching up. It seems that we've been giving people advice for exercise based on the old-fashioned advice of you've got to build an aerobic base of fitness. But now there's a lot of exercise physiologists who are actually studying physiology, thinking for themselves rather than just passing the test and reading the book, and realising that if I get really fit and really strong at 100% effort, then everything else will work. So this is how simple that is. 100% effort is 10 seconds. If I put 100% effort into whatever it is to get my heart and lungs puffed for 10 seconds, that's 100% effort. So am I going to get fit? Heart, lungs, muscles, bones, ligaments, tendons, joints, everything that makes my body work to be able to do that 10 seconds at the highest intensity possible, of course I'm going to get fit. Everything's going to work at 100% effort. Now, I can't do that if I'm not strong. So if I'm not doing strength training, if I don't have strong muscles, ligaments, tendons, joints, bones, and more importantly, central nervous system and endocrine system, because they're the two systems that drive everything else. If I don't have those at 100% effort strong, then I can't go and do my fitness at 100% effort. And I'm going to give you another really cool example. So let's just say I'm the fittest I can possibly be because I can sprint really hard at 10 seconds. And just as a quick side note, you know that you're really fit when you've got a low resting heart rate and when your recovery from 100% goes back to resting heart rate very quickly. So fit people get puffed really fast. Unfit people get puffed really fast, but fit people go back to resting heart rate really quickly and their resting heart rate is really low. That's a really simple test of fitness. So again, if I go to a start line and of any race, endurance race, sprint race, swimming race, bike race, doesn't matter, and I've got a low resting heart rate and I can go to 100% effort and get back to my resting heart rate really quickly, I can physiologically and psychologically know that I'm really fit. How do I know that I'm really strong? It means I'm getting stronger every time I train. And that's a simple process. If I can lift heavy, I'm strong. If I can lift heavier, I'm getting stronger. I don't know why we make it so complicated. And just with all exercise, of course, but particularly with strength training, you've got to overload your muscles and bones. You've got to do it in a safe way so you don't get hurt. So no stupid exercises to bust your joints. You've got to do it short so you don't get bored and that it's effective. So if I'm fit and strong, now I can go and do everything else. Now I teach a class, and this is my fun story for this. I teach a class called Fight Fit for Fun. It's 21 minutes, and the reason for 21 is it's very short, of course, but I want everybody to feel 21. We should peak fitness, peak strength, peak energy, peak loving life at 21. But then I believe, wouldn't it be nice to stay feeling 21 for the rest of your life, which is what I do. I'm a very old lady, and I still feel, in fact, I'm fitter and stronger than I was at 21 because I'm exercising more effectively. So the class is 21 minutes, and all we do for 21 minutes is we sprint as hard as we can, then we get our breath back. We punch as hard as we can, we get our breath back. We do jump squats, and then we get our breath back. We sprint on the spot, and we get our breath back. It's a very simple process. Go as hard as you can for 10 seconds, then get your breath back and go again. Now that's called getting really fit. You can't do that if you're not strong, so you need a really good strength training program to make sure your muscles and bones, ligaments, tendons, and joints are strong. You can get injured if you have an accident, but very difficult to get injured when there's no overuse because you're only doing something for 10 seconds. What's really fun to take note of is that the youngest people in my class are 4 and 5, and I have kids, grandkids, mum and dad, grandma and grandpa come and do my classes, and so the oldest have been 75, even 80 years of age. And everybody can do the class because they just go as hard as they can for 10 seconds and they get their breath back and go again. But these people train harder than most of the elite athletes I've ever trained. And I share that with you because all athletes pace themselves. Unless you're a 100-metre sprinter, because that's the only running race where you go at 100% effort. Everything else is a pace race. Everyone else paces themselves. I've got to do my 10K run. I've got to do my 5K walk. I've got to do my 10K park run. I've got to do my 1-hour hike. I've got to go for my 20K bike ride. All of those are pace races, which means if you go and do, for example, a 45-minute class at a gym or an hour class at a gym, you're going to pace yourself through the class, which means you're not going to be getting 100% fit and you're certainly not going to be getting 100% strong because most people, when they do a strength training program, they pace themselves through their strength training as well. I'm going to do 3 sets of 10, 27 exercises, and they're there for an hour. Pace, 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 pace. If you work strength training in the phosphate system, you only lift for 10 seconds because if you can lift for longer than 10 seconds, it means the weight's too light because you've got to put in 100% effort in the phosphate system. Isn't this exciting? It's all so short and so easy. So these 5-year-olds through to 80-year-olds are super fit because they're not pacing themselves. We go 10 seconds as hard as you can, then they get their breath back and go again. Now, an unfit person, it takes a little bit longer to go again, but it's really interesting when you go at 100% effort, isn't it possible that you'll get fitter quicker because you're putting in 100% effort, not 75, not 65, not 50. And when you start walking, what a waste of time. I love walking. It's one of my favourite things to do. And I hike in the mountains almost every day. But it's not exercise because I'm not overloading anything. The only time you overload is when you go at 100% effort to get 100% result. So my answer to how do I get fit and strong for life, to me it's all very simple. And I've been an exercise coach all of my life. And interestingly, 21 marathons, 4 or 5 of those marathons I ran doing the silly, boring way of doing long plod jogging, got to build up my aerobic base. And then after that I went, no, this doesn't make any sense to me, because I'd arrive at the start line of a marathon tired, worn out, endocrine system not firing properly, central nervous system tired and not firing properly, because I was overtrained. I was doing too much to get ready for a race. But if you only train at 100% effort all the time, so you're really strong. Now, when you get strong, you've got to have recovery time, of course. You can't go again until you get stronger. So my strength training program is only once a week, sometimes twice a week if I haven't put in, I don't feel I've put in a big enough effort for my one time a week. And then sprint training is several times throughout the day, because my question is, how often do you want to feel good? And the answer to me is always several times throughout the day. So multiple times throughout every single day, 7 days a week, I sprint hard for 10 seconds. Now, my heart and lungs don't know what I'm doing. So I could be boxing, I could be kicking, I could be running through soft sand, I could be running up a hill, running up some stairs, sprinting on the spot, doing jump squats. Doesn't matter as long as I'm getting puffed. So then I rock up at the marathon and I'm full of energy because I'm not overtrained. I haven't been doing 30-kilometre runs, 10-kilometre runs, getting tired, and injured, overuse. What happens now is I arrive at the start line of a 42.2 kilometre run, the start line of a 7-hour hike, and I'm surrounded here by mountains, where the biggest one here is my 8-hour return hike. That's a long way to walk. You can't exercise at 100% effort for 8 hours, but when you're really fit and strong, you can go for 8 hours, and it's really easy to go. I can run up hills as an old lady because I'm really fit and because I'm really strong, because I only exercise at 100% effort. Now, you don't have to exercise like me, but all I'm asking is this. Why waste your time on old-fashioned information that's just been regurgitated over and over and over by people who have just, they're giving you information that they were told, and they never said, why do we, like I did with my swimming coach, why am I doing long distance swimming to warm up for fast sprinting? It didn't make any sense to me, and I was only a kid back then. Why would I do long distance boring plod jog running to get fit for a marathon run? I just want to make sure that when I start the run, I'm 100% fit, I'm 100% strong, and I'm mentally tough. And if your central nervous system is tired, if your endocrine system is tired, you're going to be mentally tired as well. So you end up just plod jogging, hoping this bloody thing's over. And I ran 3 or 4, maybe 5 marathons like that, and I wasn't going to do any more. So every marathon after that, there was no long distance training. There was 20 or 30 minutes on the treadmill, or 20 or 30 minutes on hill sprints, or 20 or 30 minutes on soft sand. Sprint, get my breath back, sprint, get my breath back, and then make sure that every muscle, ligament, tendon, joint in my body was really strong, so that when I start at the start line, I've got a mentally fresh head, a physically fresh body, and I can run and thoroughly enjoy it. I can go for an 8-hour hike and thoroughly enjoy it. I can play in my garden, and when I say play, people say, Rowie, you work so hard in your garden, but I call it play because I really enjoy it. But I can rake and pick and lift and push wheelbarrows full of sand and rocks for hours on end because I'm really fit and really strong. I'm sharing all of that with you because I think it's really sad that so many people waste time doing endurance exercise for endurance events. So they wear their body out, they get really tired, they get really sore, they wear out their endocrine and central nervous system, and then they try go race. Why would you do such a thing? So all I'm asking is this. Do whatever you bloody well want, of course, but if we want our kids, because our kids are fatter and sicker and weaker and more depressed and more diseased than they've ever been, but I want our kids to do sport. I want them to do endurance events. I want them to go hiking and biking for hours and hours. When I was a kid, that was a normal event. You were thrown out of the house at sunrise pretty much and don't come back until sunset. And you had to ride your bike and go hiking and biking and playing all day long. Life was an endurance event. And isn't it now? We've got stress, we've got hassles, we've got challenges, we've got problems. Life is a whole heap series of stuff that we have to deal with, I've got to be fit and strong to do that. I've got to be mentally tough to do that. How about you? So I'm not going to train at 50% to get 100% fit, strong, and mentally tough. I'm going to train to get fit, to get strong, and to be mentally tough. So to me, that's 100%. Train short so you don't get bored. Train safe so you don't get injured. Make sure that exercise you're doing is going to give you a result. So that if you want to go hike for 5 days, if you want to climb a mountain for 8 hours, if you want to go, I always say this, if you want to go to Las Vegas and dance every night in a nightclub for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, if you want to have a baby, if you want to be a martial artist, if you want to play your sport, if you want to work in your garden for 8 hours, which is what I'm about to do, then you've got the energy to do that because you're 100% fit and 100% strong because you train at 100%. Could that be a good idea? If you want to live your life to the max, what a great idea. Woohoo! Live your life to the max. 100% fit, 100% strong. Yeah. Check out my puppy dogs. They're all sleeping. How gorgeous. Bentley! Bentley!